So local authorities in Zanzibar initially said that Ashlee took her own life, but you guys released a statement saying that her death was suspicious. What do you think happened?
Tanzania made a decision on April 13th, 2026. They called it suicide. They signed the paperwork. They closed the file. And the entire world said no. Not activists, not lawyers, not family attorneys with something to prove. Ordinary people. People who had never heard Ashlee Jenae's name before that morning, looked at the official ruling and rejected it before the ink dried. You are about to find out exactly why their instinct was right, because two things have now emerged that Tanzania did not plan for. A hospital record that was written the night Ashlee arrived, and a second autopsy that her family arranged on American soil, one that is telling a completely different story than the one Tanzania handed the world. Stay with us through this entire video. Promise 1, before this script ends, you will see exactly what that second autopsy reportedly found, and why it directly contradicts Tanzania's ruling word for word. Promise 2, you will also learn about a comment posted on Ashlee's Instagram 20 weeks before she ever boarded that plane. A comment that saw all of this coming. If you are new here, subscribe now and turn on the bell. Every development in this case lands on this channel first. Do not find out a week late. Here is what you need to understand about Tanzania's ruling. It did not emerge from a slow, careful investigation. It arrived fast. It arrived before the family had answers. It arrived before the autopsy results were publicly released. And it arrived before anyone had explained the most important detail in this entire case. He waited 11 hours before he called her mother. That detail is where this story actually begins. That 11-hour gap isn't just suspicious, it's the thread that unravels everything Tanzania built. And to understand why, you need to know exactly what was happening inside that resort while the clock was running. Ashlee's mother, Yolanda, did not find out from her daughter's fiancé that something was wrong. She found out 11 hours after the fact. Think about what 11 hours actually means. It is enough time to fly across an ocean. It is enough time to consult a lawyer. It is enough time to decide very carefully exactly what you are going to say. When Joe McCann finally called, he told Yolanda that Ashlee had done something to herself. He told her Ashlee was stable. He told her not to worry. Ashlee was not stable. Ashlee was already gone. The family learned their daughter had died not from the man who proposed to her 6 days earlier. They learned it from the hotel. Let that land for a second. Here is what Yolanda told CBS News directly. My daughter Ashlee is no longer here with us, and we are trying to find out why. She described the FaceTime calls Ashlee had been making during the trip. She described a daughter sharing her safari in real time with her family back in Philadelphia. She described a woman who was present, who was connected, who was alive in every way that mattered, right up until she wasn't. A woman. FaceTiming her mother from a safari does not quietly plan to end her life 3 days later. That is not a grief-fueled assumption. That is a logical observation. Ashlee's father, Harry Robinson, did not wait for Tanzania to move. He flew to Washington, D.C. He knocked on doors inside the State Department. He demanded a U.S. coroner be present at the Tanzanian autopsy. And he got one. That almost never happens. American families whose loved ones die abroad rarely get a domestic witness in that room. Harry Robinson forced it into existence through sheer refusal to accept silence. He also said something publicly that every investigator in this case should have flagged immediately. There are cameras everywhere at that resort. All my family needs is for someone to do the investigation. He was not asking for cameras because he wanted closure. He was asking because he believed the footage would show something that contradicts the story being told. As of this recording, that footage has not been independently reviewed by anyone outside the resort or the Zanzibari government. So Tanzania had the body, the cameras, and a U.S. coroner in the room. And still, 5 days after the official autopsy, nothing was released. No summary, no briefing, No call to the family. And that silence is exactly what forced the Robinson family to do something most grieving families never have to do. The Robinson family brought Ashlee home. And once she was on American soil, they arranged an independent examination, conducted by medical professionals with no obligation to Tanzania, no diplomatic pressure, and no ruling to protect. What that examination reportedly found is strangulation. Not hanging, strangulation. Those are not the same thing, and the difference matters more than anything Tanzania has said publicly. Here is what forensic medicine actually tells us about this distinction. 5 findings that separate strangulation from self-suspension, point by point. 1. Bruising direction. Hanging produces upward ligature marks. Strangulation from external force produces horizontal compression patterns inconsistent with self-suspension. 2. Petechial hemorrhaging. The small burst vessels in the whites of the eyes appear differently depending on the mechanism. A trained examiner can read them like a signature. 3. Hyoid bone fracture pattern. This small bone in the throat fractures differently, or not at all, depending on whether force came from above or from the front. 4. Skin tissue evidence. External compression from another person's hands or a ligature applied horizontally leaves a different tissue signature than a drop. 5. The absence of positional indicators. Hanging leaves physical evidence of suspension. If that evidence is absent, the mechanism is not hanging. A trained forensic pathologist does not confuse these findings. They are not subtle. They are not ambiguous. And here is what makes this second autopsy impossible to dismiss. The first hospital that received Ashlee, before any ruling, before any press statement, before any family attorney got involved, had already written the same direction into her medical record. That record, obtained by WPV at Philadelphia, listed her cause of death as cerebral hypoxia by strangulation and suffocation. 2 separate clinical findings, both inconsistent with the story Tanzania was telling, written down on night 1 by medical professionals who had no political reason to lie. Here is what we want to know from you right now. Drop it in the comments. When you first heard Tanzania call this a suicide, what did your gut tell you? Because something tells us you already knew. 2 medical findings, 2 identical conclusions. But there is a third piece of evidence in this case, one that was publicly visible 20 weeks before Ashlee ever landed in Zanzibar. And it is the detail that should make everyone stop breathing for a second. 20 weeks before Ashlee Jenae boarded a plane to Tanzania, a stranger left a comment on her public Instagram page. Not a vague warning, not coded language, a direct, plain English statement telling Ashlee that her fiancé was going to end her life. At the time, it looked like noise. Ashlee had over 100,000 followers. Aggressive comments, jealous strangers, trolls. That is the ambient cost of building a platform as a black woman in public. Nobody flagged it. Nobody escalated it. The comment sat there. 20 weeks later, Ashlee is dead. Tanzania has ruled it a suicide. A second autopsy is reporting strangulation. And that comment is still sitting on her public feed, visible to anyone who looks, having predicted this outcome in the exact words nobody wanted to believe. That is not the internet throwing guesses at a wall. Somebody knew something. Maybe they had encountered Joe McCann personally. Maybe they had seen a pattern in his history that matched something they had lived through themselves. Maybe they had a connection to his first wife, Shay Jackson, a name this case has not finished with yet. That commenter is still alive. They still have an account. They carry whatever knowledge made them type those words onto a happy woman's travel post and press send. The person who wrote that comment should, at minimum, be someone investigators are actively looking for, according to sources following the forensic timeline of this case. If you have seen that comment, if you know who posted it, or if you have any information about this case, subscribe and stay close to this channel. This is where those answers surface first when they come. Tell us in the comments. Do you think that commenter comes forward? And do you think investigators are already looking? A stranger tried to warn her. A hospital documented what happened. A second autopsy confirmed it. And Tanzania, the country holding the one official autopsy that could settle this entire case, has said nothing, which forces the only question left. Tanzania has the body. They had the cameras. They had a U.S. coroner in the room. They have the autopsy sitting in a file somewhere in Zanzibar, and they have released none of it. Governments that have nothing to hide release findings quickly. They hold press briefings. They cooperate with grieving families. They answer the phone when the State Department calls. Tanzania has done none of that. And silence, sustained, deliberate silence, is not neutral. Silence is a choice. And every day Tanzania makes that choice, the gap between their ruling and the medical record grows wider and harder to explain. Zanzibari locals have said openly what most outlets will not print. In that resort environment, local police and resort staff can be influenced by money. That is not speculation. Those are people who live and work inside that system, describing how it actually operates. The Robinson family has done everything a family should never have to do. They flew to Washington. They fought for their daughter's body. They paid for a second autopsy out of grief and desperation and absolute refusal to accept a story that did not match their daughter. Ashlee Jenae deserves better than Tanzania's silence. Her family deserves the footage from those cameras. And you deserve to know the full truth of what happened inside Villa 25. Leave one word in the comments that describes what you feel about Tanzania's silence. One word, we will read every single one. Joe McCann has not been charged with any crime. He remains a person of interest under investigative hold. No formal finding of wrongdoing has been made. The second autopsy findings are attributed to sources close to the family and are not yet officially confirmed. Subscribe. Turn on the bell. The moment Tanzania releases that autopsy, the moment those findings are confirmed through named sources, this channel breaks it down first. Ashlee's family is still fighting. The least we can do is keep watching.